Well, I mean, one of them's got to have a map on them, right? Joel, can you help me?
No.
No.
It's over. We are going home.
This is not my fucking home!
Oh,
Yes, it is.
damn.
It's true.
He
It's
loves
true.
you, girl.
Ooh, grass is greener inside.
That was
I liked that remark. I'm sorry.
Damn, girl. It had to be like this.
I'm staying.
Girl.
You can't stay.
For who?
Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
Damn.
Don't do it.
It'd be like that.
Fuck. She's infected.
Ooh. Wait, Joel, how did you not catch on but the child did first? Show me!
His Joel doesn't want to believe it. He loves her.
Whatever.
I know what you are.
Oh.
What you are. Your skin sparkles.
Yeah, your skin sparkles.
Ooh. Oh.
Touch me. It's so weak.
Oh, that'll be fine. That's just
Yeah,
a flesh
just
wound.
rub some mint, apple cider vinegar.
Oops. Whoops. Oh, okay.
Joel?
I don't know.
No,
No.
Oh,
John, I want to go home.
No,
John, I want to go
no.
home. John, I want to go home.
Oh, like
We had a training on this one here.
like a mouthful of spaghetti that was.
Furry spaghetti, moldy spaghetti.
Oh.
Typical
fungal
Friday
spaghetti.
night,
Oh,
baby.
baby.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
What a way to go.
That's honestly, out of anyone in this show so far, the worst way to go. The worst way to go so
Making
far.
out with the fungus.
Well, but the
No.
grandma also made out with the tentacles, and that's a little.
But this one is like, you know, like, this is a horrible example, but like if you're like, oh, I'm drunk and I just want to go get my spaghetti out of the fridge, start eating the spaghetti that's been in there for 3 months.
And then you see the hair on it?
And then you see the hair, but you felt it going down your
That's
throat.
just penicillin. It's just
Ah, well,
penicillin.
it doesn't hurt you, it makes you stronger. Welcome back to New Rockstars. The Last of Us episode 2 is here. And god damn it, they're on pace to kill one major character an episode.
I know.
The thing is, if you played the games, you knew it was coming, just didn't think it was coming this fast.
I thought we had one more episode,
Yeah.
please.
Great actress. She turned it up for
Yeah,
this,
it's horrible.
and I'm here for it. Look out, Ellie's chicken sandwich. You're next. Oh God.
That was a good looking chicken sandwich.
Yeah. How the hell they get gourmet chicken sandwich? Michelin 5-star. We'll talk. This is the Break Room, our daily show that keeps you updated on all the nerdy news that you need to know about. And today we're talking about The Last of Us, episode 2. So kick your feet up on some spilled oil barrel and plug into the hive mind as we dive in, baby.
That's right.
I'm Jessica Clemens, and with me today is Brandon Barrick
Hello, happy to be alive.
and Hannah Vanston.
No! She's turning! I knew
That's
it.
the prettiest fungus I've ever seen.
The prettiest fungus I've ever
I'll
seen.
show you my tentacles if you want.
It's just so bad. Okay, let's just get it. Let's get into it.
As a reminder, the first part of this episode will be spoiler-free. We recommend if you haven't played the games to avoid reading the comments. And if you don't want to be spoiled, just stay away from there. If you're in the comments, don't be spoilery. Come on, let people appreciate the show and the story they're telling. There are a few foreshadowing moments in this episode for folks that have played the game, so we'll be leaving those out at the end of the episode in a recap and covering them at the end. So if we do any spoiler talk, it'll be at the very end. We will warn you. We will tell you. You'll be warned. But for now, the episode begins with another incredible cold open, very different from the game, new stuff that we hadn't seen before. An Indonesian mycologist is taken from her lunch and brought to a research facility. She inspects the body of a young woman who had been infected with the cordyceps virus while working at a grain and flour factory.
Can we talk about the grain and flour factory?
Talk about it real quick.
Yeah. Well, if you saw, we put out a short on New Rockstars talking about how we had guessed that obviously in the game it comes from imported crops. We've been over this. In this one, it's originating from a grain and flour factory, which we put the puzzle pieces together.
yeast
Craig
is a
Mason was like,
fungus. Yeah.
yeast. Craig Mason was like, in a little interview, he was like, we've left breadcrumbs. And then Eric delved into how, what are all the examples? The
biscuits.
old woman's being fed biscuits.
They don't have pancake mix.
They run out of pancake mix. He doesn't bring the cake
The
home.
oatmeal raisin cookies.
Oatmeal raisin cookies.
What are you saying? What are you saying? What's the
Get on
common
Atkins
theme?
now! Get on Atkins
Oh, and
now!
Atkins,
And
yes!
Atkins, the
I was
Atkins.
so excited to
Yeah.
this blew my mind when I realized.
It's a great little device. And yeah, if you're not listening, HBO has an official after show podcast. Watch this first. listen to that. Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann talk about the show and the game and how everything's related. And they did say we left little breadcrumbs in that first episode.
So
literal
this is
breadcrumbs,
like confirmed.
Right,
It's
yeah.
not crops, but it's yeast.
It's spreading through the food. It's in the food, folks.
And I want to come back. I'm going to put a little pin in
Put
that
in a
later.
pin in it.
For-
Yeah. So we discovered this is starting at a flour factory. 14 people are unaccounted for. They're probably out there biting folks. When asked for advice on how to create a cure, Dr. Radna very coldly told the Indonesian military to bomb the whole city. Very fun, very honest, and I love that later we see they tried bombing Boston. Can't bomb Boston.
What did I
Boston's
say?
strong.
I said if they start every episode with a little bit and then it's
Ooh,
about
yeah.
the episode, and when they did that, I was like, ooh, hell yeah. But also, how ruthless of a human. How rude. I love her.
I mean,
I
she's
love her.
honest. She was
she's
straight
like,
up.
Can I go be with my family? Because this thing is going to kill everybody.
Because the guy was like, we need a vaccine, we need a cure. And she was like, bitch, you better be joking.
God.
There
And
ain't no
just-
cure for this.
What extra sucks is that it shows that, like, especially in the first episode in the beginning, scientists were like, yeah, dude, we got nothing if it's a fungus. And it's so frustrating to be like, why wouldn't you try to work
them
on it
40,
in these
almost
years?
40
Yeah.
years passed, and they still don't have an answer because they're like, I can't get it in
It
humans.
sounds like a lot of things that we have today.
Oh,
Okay.
I wonder.
Wow. Tess and Joel monitor Ellie through the night, and she doesn't turn. They take her through the outskirts of the QZ, and Ellie tells Tess about how she was bitten and asks questions about bloaters and clickers.
Which she doesn't know are bloaters. I think she says, is it true? So it's not true they're ones that click like a bat and
Yeah.
like
Well, she asked
explode
about
spores
like the
on you?
spores,
which-
and they're like, no, that's crazy. We've never heard of that. And then she asked about like the blind ones that live in the dark and click, and they're like, they look at each other like, we can't tell her that's real because it'll freak her out, but it's real and we've seen it. and we
Also,
know about
when
it.
they came out and you hear the screech of one, and they're like, let's just keep moving, I was like, maybe turn around.
Yeah.
Maybe turn around.
There's also a moment when, if you've played the game, when they're leaving that first little setup and Joel opens the door, it makes like a clicking noise.
Yeah.
And to me was like, oh, that sounds like the game or whatever. And I think it was to make the people who played the game jump a little bit to think like, oh, is there one right there already?
We also learned that the infected act as a hive mind. Stepping on a patch of cordyceps in one area can activate a group of the infected miles away.
I love that.
Which, oh my God. When they got inside the building and went under the fingernails, I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
first off, that is everyone's fear. It's like ripping off fingernails.
Yeah, yeah.
And then for it to just start connecting and you see that some are dry
comes
spots
back
and
to
some are
life,
real.
yeah.
Oh, good. So good. So good.
It seems, I don't know. Listen, I know why they did. I understand why they did it. It seems pick and choosy to me.
Okay.
Like it's like, well, does that apply for every infected that's still moving around? Like I don't know.
I guess so.
I, need to
I
know
think
the
it does.
rules.
I think it all connects to each of them. It's weird because, like, when it comes to horticulture, the plants interact in such crazy ways. Go watch The Happening, folks. It's
Well,
one
I
they
think
fight back.
I took it to be if you're like a mobile, if you're like a clicker, right, and you're walking around and you're not attached to the spread, and you get killed, no one knows. But if it's on the ground, because we've seen it on like the game, there's much more like spread out of the fungus from a corpse, right?
Right.
So I like that idea that like they're just waiting. Because if this fungus is sentient enough that it's like keeping itself alive, it's saving resources. Like I'm not gonna put liquid onto all of my spreadable fungus. I'll just wait till I need it. I don't know.
That's fair. Okay, I get that.
So keep going through the episode. The group has to cut through a museum since the long way is being guarded by a new horde of infected, and we get to meet our first clickers. And Ellie very smartly was like, we should not go in there.
we should not.
That place looks bad. He's like, it's fine. They're probably dead by now. Joel bags 2 kills here, but not before both Tess and Ellie get bit.
Ellie's fine. At the Capitol building, the group figures out that one of the fireflies had been infected and killed the rest. As Joel puts down the last of the infected, a horde of runners nearby are hive mind triggered and make their way to the group. They're speeding, and this is why I hate them. They run like cheetahs. I don't know why I made you stronger. Tess holds them off using spilled oil barrels and her charm. And Joel and Ellie make it out alive. Her sweet, sweet charm. It was also gross to think about. But I was wondering if they reacted that way because they were like, oh, not only is she infected, but she's not running.
Yeah,
She's standing there. I know though the crazy ones were, but the one that was
Right.
already turning into a clicker was like, she's not running. So
I
I'm just
took
gonna-
that moment as like, yeah, the ones running past her, I feel like they didn't even see her because they're like, oh, she's already infected. We don't need to go after her.
Yeah.
Like they could already tell immediately, like whatever they're smelling or the fungus itself. But I didn't know if the kiss was like she's starting to change, and it was like she was almost compelled to join up with another part of the fungus, or she was just so
fungus trying to
scared.
find more
She
of
she
itself.
could see herself in this guy. Like this is gonna be
Like,
me.
why did she stay still?
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think that moment to me was definitely a contrast between the affection she wanted from Joel and then like what, it was a contrast
Yeah.
there.
'Cause
Like
Joel
she
pulled
never,
away when she got
she was
close
never
again.
able to get that affection
I
from Joel.
thought I thought it was just that she was like, she's still smart and a woman that
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna go down swinging.
Right.
So I think she was just like, as many that can get in this building as possible.
Yeah, just wait as long as she can.
Before I get infected.
I'll
'cause
kiss
then I
all of
can't
them
do
and get
anything.
them all in here. We'll
Yeah.
get a line
You know what?
going. Do you think Tess intended to hide her bite for longer? Okay, was it Ellie's deduction that made her come clean when Ellie figured it out pretty quick? Or was she just working herself up to telling Joel and Ellie? Because in the museum, after both clickers have been killed, Joel asks Tess if she's all right. She responds, twisted ankle, but yeah. It's possible with all the adrenaline, she didn't realize she had been bitten, but she's a smart lady. She knew right away that she had been bitten, right?
No, she knew. I think she was just waiting till it got worse. Also, you never know the situation you're gonna be in when the situation
Right.
happens. So I think she is driven by the fact of like, we have an opportunity to actually change the world.
Yeah.
To absolutely like revert it back to what it was. So I think she was just holding on to like, as long as I have, but I know the second it happens, I will tell Joel and he'll kill me.
Yeah, I don't think she ever would have put Joel at risk. I think she is smart enough to know where she was bitten and so about how long she had. I think that's why when they cross over that little plane thing, she's like, let's go before sundown. Like she's really rushing.
She's doing the
her.
time in her
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
Yeah, we saw in that first episode, we saw that lovely handy dandy chart before they gave that little kid all the toys that they ever wanted. That said, like, if you're bit in the head and neck, it's like 5 to 15 minutes before you turn. If it's like shoulder, arm, like that, it's like 2 to 8 hours.
yeah.
Big gap, big
It
gap.
was here.
It's kinda in between, right?
So somewhere in between.
So
yeah,
like,
somewhere
and they
in
were
between.
kind of still far from the capital at that point. Got to
Yeah.
do a little climbing and stuff. 45 minutes to an hour, maybe?
So I think she was absolutely just like, I think Tess is team cure. She is team, I need to get this little girl to the Fireflies so they can make a cure for humanity.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't think she would have put Joel at risk. If she like felt it, I think.
If she started feeling the
Also,
twitch.
luckily, I'm sure Joel would have been like, oh, we gotta kill her. Or at least what would have actually happened if she would have changed is Joel would have been like choked up a little bit and then Ellie would have killed her.
Ellie would have been like, kill this lady.
We got it.
So do you think the bite made her do the kiss? If you want to talk about the kiss
Bite
a
me.
little more.
Well, the main
Is
thing
the
about
kiss all her, or is that some fungus acting out?
listen, I'm more concerned about the symbolism of it.
Okay.
And I really do think it is that the contrast of what she couldn't get from Joel and what she got in the end. What I also love about that moment is it's during when she's trying to light the thing, and then when she does do it, she finally lights it. I think
That's the spark?
this is a metaphor for her not being able to get the spark
The
between
spark.
them. And when she
spark.
finally does get that flame,
She's dead.
That's brutal.
It's a great moment. I think disgusting.
She
but
broke
great.
Joel's heart when he was like, "Let's go home," and she's like, "That's not my home." I think that was hard for Joel, man, because I think
Get over it.
No,
She's
no,
about to
yeah,
die.
I'm about to die.
You
Let
know,
me
like,
have my fucking
That's all he
kiss.
had anymore was that little patch of awful land
Sorry.
inside the QZ, right?
But I love how she says in those last moments between her and Joel, she says, "Oh, what is the exact quote? I never asked you for anything, not to
Yeah.
feel how I felt."
Yes,
Like I was like,
yeah.
"Oh,
That is
it's so much deeper than we
They
thought."
they had a physical connection, but probably they were. I would take it to be in this kind of world where everyone has post-traumatic stress syndrome. They're afraid to open up, right? Because the second you fall in love with someone, they're gone. You know what I mean? It's too risky. You can't lose it all again. So I think both of them were guarded, and when they would try to have their moments, they probably never synced up. They never got that spark,
Yeah.
right? And I think I don't think Ellie was ever trying to hide her infection. I think she knew she was bit. She's down 100% for this cure idea. Remember, she's the one trying to convince Joel. Like, she's like, "This is real. Like, look at this."
Tess.
Tess
You
is
said
saying
Ellie.
this. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
These names.
I wasn't listening.
Thank you. Tess knew she had to get. I think Tess knew I got to get these guys as close to the Fireflies at the state capitol as I can,
Yeah.
and I will push it for as long as I
Yeah.
can. Because Joel listens to me. Something great that Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann talked about in their podcast for the first episode was that they've made it very clear that Tess is the boss here.
Right.
Joel does whatever Tess says. She even tells them, save who you can save. You can't save me, I'm gone, you gotta go. And that clicks in his head. He gets that. And he listens, and he has to drag Ellie away, who's like, no, we gotta help her. And he's like, no, she's done. We're getting out of here. I mean, maybe take a few of those grenades with you. The gamer in me was like, you're dumping all these grenades on the ground? These boxes are full of grenades? Grab a box.
They gotta go.
Gotta go.
Also, not to be that person, and yes, the game 100%.
Yeah.
My biggest fear with the game is always like the noise. So it's just like, if I set off a grenade,
More
how
and more are
many
gonna
are
come.
gonna start coming?
I mean, kill as many as you can. I like that. But Ellie, Tess knew she had to get Ellie to the state capitol, and then it'll be fine. I can die once we get to this place. And I think her getting there and seeing that, like, oh no, they're dead too, just devastating. And she's like, let's blow this mother up. You know what I mean? Let's take them all out.
Honestly, the most hardcore thing. I love her.
It was pretty
I love her.
hardcore.
I would try to
It
do
was
something
pretty
like that. Except for
hardcore.
as soon as it got close to my mouth,
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm back out.
Yeah. No, I give. Shoot me in the head, please.
They're really good at getting you with those little things.
So I assume from this point too, like, there's gotta that truck we saw, was that the Firefly's truck? We imply that's their truck.
Was it not the? Okay, so
It was
Or was
armored.
that an old Fedra truck?
thought it was
but they
gonna
said
be
in the
the-
first episode that Fireflies have access to Fedra stuff. They've stolen some Fedra stuff.
So do you think that the person that led the blood inside from that truck was a
Was a
Firefly
Firefly?
that killed the
Yeah.
rest of their team inside that?
Yeah.
Oh, so yes, it has to be a Firefly truck.
I hope so. I hope they're gonna take
Unless
that
it's
truck.
a bunch of crazy people that are still outside in the.
Because I saw that gasoline and I was like, if this is OG gas that's been in the state capitol since the outbreak, it can't be good anymore. This is something that gets brought up sometimes in zombie things and sometimes forgotten in zombie things, that over time gasoline will decay and separate and no longer be gasoline. So I took it to be like, maybe that's fresh stuff that they moved it inside. I don't know. I don't know how long they were planning to be there. Who knows? But
Who
it seemed like the
knows?
gas still lights on fire. That's the good part,
Oh,
right?
yes.
start
That's
the
where
fire.
you were getting to. I was
Yeah.
trying to follow where this
Well,
was.
I'm wondering if
Okay.
they're going to take this truck or if they're going to be on foot from here still. I don't know what's
They
going to happen in the
battery.
next
That's
episode.
the problem, is that it's the battery.
I know,
that we
but if
don't
this
know.
is a good
It was
working
a good
truck, who cares about the battery? Like, use
Well, you
this
can't
truck.
use. Wouldn't it be a different battery technically in that big ass truck?
You can make it work.
Also, just go on foot. Get away from this location that's on fire that probably set off an alarm for every clicker. Just go on foot. Be
Right, right.
quiet as possible until you're. In
Yeah,
the
but they
safe
got a
zone.
long way to
And then
go.
but then you also got Ellie being a little wild right now. So just let her cool down. Walk it off.
If she's wild right now.
Oh, wait till she really wild.
She's going to get real wild.
She gonna
She's
wild
get
out.
real wild.
She's gonna keep getting bit.
Like, I'm
constantly.
sick of this. Like,
Just
it
constantly.
hurts.
My first thought was like, Joel should be more afraid because I'd be like, okay, you get bit once and you're fine.
Yeah.
What happens when you get bit twice? What happens when you get bit 3 times?
Yeah,
He
how many
says that,
times?
right?
Yeah,
Times, dude.
He brings that up. He's like, well, what about the second bite? We
Yeah.
don't know anything about that.
Right.
It works
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
It
That
works
was a great moment too when she was like, good thing it was me, huh?
out.
I'll take this one.
Anybody want to eat a chicken sandwich? That chicken sandwich was damn
That
fine.
did look like a good chicken sandwich. Well, we got more to talk about for this episode. But first, we want to thank our sponsor for this episode, and that's Factor. This new year, you've got goals. Stay alive. Don't get killed by the cordyceps.
Easy.
And Factor is here to help you achieve them. Sick of eating apocalypse chicken sandwiches? I know I am. Save time and have the energy you need to tackle everything on your to-do list with Factor's ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Get Factor and not only skip the trip to the grocery store, but skip the chopping, the prepping, and cleaning up. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes to heat up a meal. So all you have to do is just heat it up and enjoy. It'll be delicious. Factor has meals that are keto, right? Not keto.
Keto friendly? Oh, yeah, keto.
Factor
I
ha-
think it's keto.
Factor has meals that are keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and full of protein, prepared by chefs and approved by dietitians. Each meal has all of the ingredients you need to feel satisfied all day long. With 34 chef-prepared, dietitian-approved weekly options, there's always something new to try. Plus, you can round out your meal and replenish your snack supply with an assortment of 36+ quick bites, smoothies, juices, and more satisfying add-ons. This is everything you need to eat is right here at Factor. Because each meal is prepared by chefs and approved by dietitians, you know that your Factor meal has all the ingredients you want and nothing you don't. Get Factor and enjoy clean eating without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door, ready in just 2 minutes. There really is no easier way to eat well. Achieve and maintain your goals this year with Factor. Get America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit and start saving time, eating well, and living your best year ever. Head to factormeals.com/breakroom60 and use code breakroom60 to get 60% off your first box. That's code breakroom60 at factormeals.com/breakroom60 to get 60% off your first box.
Keto is neato.
Keto is neato.
You can have that one for free, Factor. You're welcome.
Keto is neato, but get on Atkins so you don't get cordyceps.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question I have for you folks. Did Marlene know that the Fireflies at the Capitol were dead? Did she set up Joel and Tess in the hopes that they'd continue taking Ellie west?
Oh, Marlene.
That they would
I
just,
was thinking
yeah,
Tess.
did Marlene, when she sent them on this quest, she's been stabbed, she's left behind in the QZ in Boston. She's like, I can't, you gotta take it. The Fireflies will get her out there. Do you think Marlene knew at that point that they were already dead and she hadn't had radio contact with them and she was like, I'll just get them to there and they'll keep taking Ellie?
The thing is, I think she believes that Ellie is the goal, so why would she send her to a...
Well, Marlene, she was very practical in the first episode. She's telling her like, Lieutenant, like, we're not doing great. We're getting nowhere. We're gonna forget this whole like guerrilla warfare stuff. Let's focus on the cure, right? But she could possibly, at that point, have lost radio contact with the people at the State House. Be like, oh, they're not answering. They're probably dead. Or maybe she heard on the radio, like, blah, 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 and she's like, oh, they're dead. Right? But she's like, I can't ask Joel and Tess to just take this girl west. I'm going to tell them to go to the State House. They're going to get there. There'll be some supplies there and possibly some dead things.
You
And then they'll put her in a car and they'll take her.
You are trying to get them all killed.
This is unfounded speculation.
These are the thoughts of a woman who's been stabbed and
No, these are the thoughts of
things are
you.
going crazy.
These are the thoughts of you.
You're writing the prequel in between scenes.
I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
I think you are. And I think that would be very funny if she was like, well, maybe they'll run into a horde of zombies, but maybe they won't. The chances are very high.
She's playing it all out. Tess gets bit here, and then Joel's inspired. So I've planted a makeout zombie at this point.
Yeah, the
so
sexiest zombie is
What's better than 3 people than 2 people?
that zombie did have a little too tousled hair, neatly tousled. It was a plant zombie, I know it.
I genuinely think...
We're not zombies. Someo's going to comment it, and we should say it now.
Infected? We'll call them infected. We'll stop
I'm going
calling
to
them
continue
zombies.
calling them zombies.
Okay.
I mean, they are the living dead.
At Jessica, not me. Don't at me.
Come from me.
They're the living dead.
I'm sorry, do they come back to life after dying? No, I'm joking.
I interrupted them.
I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't going to be that helpful, to be honest. It wasn't going to help this. But no, I think she was actually actively trying to send them somewhere. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, I don't care how close to death you are, how, like, whatever. I think you should have been much more... Like, yeah, I talked to him yesterday before being like, and I understand, we're living in a post-apocalyptic time now, but it's like, you can't, like, hope that they're going to get there, 3 people on foot through a world of zombies.
I mean, and there could have been more off camera we didn't see, but yeah, she didn't list names, she didn't say, like, a time.
All I remember is her cussing out her friend and being like, you have no ear.
right, that was great. The lieutenant was like, I'll take her. She's like, you don't even have fucking ear, dude. Come on.
She's got 1 ear.
That was a great reveal, and you're like, oh, I guess I don't have an ear. She's still got an ear hole.
True. Good point, Brandon.
Thank you.
She needs a cheerleader at this point. Someone's got to root her on.
Someone's got to root her. Yeah, she's just gonna keep getting cussed out.
Well, I'll ask you. Do you think they're gonna go back to that quarantine zone at all, or do you think Joel and Ellie from here, they're out? They're not because Joel wanted to go back. Yeah. This whole time he wanted to go back, and now he doesn't have Tess to say we can't go back.
They're gonna find the dead guy.
The dead
sergeant that he beat to death, right?
Oh,
and
that's
I'm not trying to say this in like a horrible way, but he wasn't mauled by a zombie. He was punched in the face repeatedly. Yeah. And if 2 people come back to the QZ, we already saw how they treated that child.
That's true.
Like if 2 people
come back saw how they hung people in the street for sneaking
people.
out.
So it's like, they're also like, are you the 2 that punched one of our guys' face
also, where's Tess?
Who you've been talking to? We see you guys. It's a closed-off center. We see
you guys go over by the brick wall and talk. We know something's up.
Talk for a long time, and now his face is bludgeoned in. No zombie does that.
Also, Joel, we saw you on the side licking that plastic bag.
I think if they go back to the quarantine zone, it will either be to pursue maybe Fedra going after them, or maybe showing how Marlene eventually ventures out and goes on her does.
Yeah, she'll have to come out.
Because in the game, we don't see what Marlene does after that. Like we don't cut away from Joel and Ellie to see what she's doing.
We always focus on them. Well, let's talk
they're doing that in the
about
show.
some of the changes from the game. So if you haven't played the game, you don't want to know the differences, go away. Go away. But we're gonna talk about some changes from the game.
All right, let's talk about some similarities, some changes. I've decided I'm talking about similarities.
Talk about some similarities.
That's how I'm starting this segment. And there were a ton. There was a lot of, following the first episode, there was a lot of dialogue taken straight from the game. The Hotel Grand, which they visit, which they don't say the name of in the show, but in the game it is called the Hotel Grand. There is a difference there too. It comes in much later in the game, but they just bumped it up a little bit earlier. They also visit the museum. That was the exact same as in the game in Pittsburgh, right?
The museum's in Pittsburgh?
Where is it in the show?
This is in Boston. We're still in Boston.
No, it's in Boston in the game. Sorry, I'm coming back. Shaking off the rust.
Both of those sequences had great like video game moments, and they had this in the first episode too, of like blocking exits and separating people. Right.
Yes.
The first episode had the car smashing in and blocking an alleyway, and that's so video gamey.
Yeah.
And this one had like, there's the ceiling collapse, and I'm gonna leave you two and go. Or like, we made it on the second level of the museum, and now it closed behind us, and we can't go out that way.
Yeah,
like, very video game.
I loved how in that little cave-in thing, he boosts Tess up, because that's definitely a nod to the game. He's always boosting ladies up there. He's always boosting the ladies,
Hey,
Joel.
I mean, if it's the apocalypse, you gotta get what you can get. You boost a lady.
You boost a lady or two. It's the apocalypse.
An apocalypse where a virus is wildly racist.
It's a fungus.
A fungus.
Not a virus.
Sorry, fungus, which you can still technically get when
wouldn't that suck if you survive all this and you get like the flu and die? That'd be awful.
Yeah, what if I got ringworm?
Dead.
I'm like, it's
Dead.
different. It's a different fungus.
Dead.
It's a different fungus.
They're only out there making hydro. They're not making antifungal cream.
No, but yeah, they have that the bunch of video game nods. They also, I noticed, did like flashlights, which you have. It seems like something that's like, they had flashlights. Everyone does. No, it's a game nod. Get over it.
It's a game
nod. It's definitely a game nod.
Yeah.
They
the
also
backpacks, so gamey.
The backpacks, he wraps Tess's foot up in duct tape.
Yeah.
And
It was like electrical
duct tape. In the
tape.
game.
I
Or
was like, that's insane.
I was trying to find if that was the exact bandage noise they use in the game when you bandage yourself. I couldn't find like a good sample of the bandage noise.
I can do it for you.
Find it for me.
Wow, it's exact. It's perfect. So those were a lot of the similarities. Again, a lot of the dialogue pulled straight from the game. But let's talk about some differences. The opening, once again, wasn't what it was in the game. We don't ever see Jakarta or this whole professor thing.
Right.
That's all completely new. As we touched on last week, there's a tweak in the origin, and as we talked about in the beginning with the bread and the crops. Okay, so we skip a big chunk of the Boston QZ escape in favor of the scene with Joel, Tess, and Ellie waking up in the morning, which is new. I also really love in this scene that when she wakes up, she's in like a pool of light and surrounded by moss,
grass.
which is a great contrast to Joel.
I wasn't there for a moment. I remember that scene.
We'll call them Teal.
Who are standing in the darkness on
Yeah.
concrete. I also thought I think they might have been trying to do the same thing in episode 1, where we see Ellie, when she's being held captive, she looks up at the wall and she says, when you're in the darkness.
Yeah.
The rest of it being look for the light, and she's in a little
she's
beam
the
of light.
light.
She's the light! So I think this might have been sort of the same thing, the contrast of the two characters and her
like
being
that.
like hope in the light.
Yeah, I did see during that conversation, she's in the light and he's in the dark.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like, I love that he's like ready to kill her. Let's go. Let's kill this girl.
So I agree with their decision to swap these things out, because
Totally.
it's more about the relationship than the sneaking out.
Well, and there's different audiences here. A video game, you have to give the audience something to do, more action, more elements of like doing stuff. The show, we're all experiencing it the same way in that we're being shown the same stuff. So I think it's smart to like move things around to make them narratively more interesting, for sure.
There are also some completely practical differences, like technically, because after that scene, whenever they go out into the light, she's like, the world, for the first time, there are those slanty buildings. That moment actually takes place at night in the game, as in addition to the museum, like all of that stuff takes place at night.
When they have that conversation of like, we can take the long way or the you're fucking dead way.
Yeah.
you don't get a choice.
You don't get a choice in the
You
game.
just go the way that you go. It's very one-tracked. And also the hive mind aspect of the fungi infected all being connected, that is new to this. And obviously they set it up in the beginning, and Chekhov's fungi is what I call it. It pays off in the end there. In the museum, Joel's the one that has to go alone instead of Tess, who sticks with Ellie. Ellie getting bit, again, is also a new detail from the game. Normally, Ellie can walk through rooms with spores, but there isn't a plot point of her getting bit a second time. But Tess does in the game. She also gets bit. She also hides it. So that part is pretty much.
We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to full spoiler territory here at the end. We'll talk more about Tess
we'll
in the
come
game.
back to it. And then finally, when they arrive at the Capitol building, it's normally in the game it's the Fedra soldiers that they have to that are after them, and they show up at the building. They have the whole like, I'm bit, I'm gonna stay. She's still bit. She shows in the game. When he finds out she's bit, he does back away a little bit, but there's not the moment of her walking towards him and him backing away, which I feel like is a lot more powerful.
And that moment in the game is also where the game hints that there may be in a relationship, but it's never as expressly said in the game, like we said in the first episode. It's never expressly said in the game that like they're in a relationship. This scene is what's kind of
I
hinted
guess
at.
here it isn't either.
No,
I
I was
cuddle my
sharing a
friends
bed.
all the damn time.
That's true. That's true.
But thinking back, I was talking about last episode of us doing this. I was like, oh, they for sure called it out when she put her arm around him. But now I'm like, no, because there's a reason he didn't like cuddle against her
Well,
or
he was
anything. It's
wasted
one-sided.
and high on pills.
Oh my God. Put the bag away,
I thought
Brandon.
you genuinely fell.
I almost did
like,
fall.
no, you didn't.
Could
Shut
have been killed.
Shut your
Oh my
mouth.
Lord. So yes, normally the Fedra soldiers are coming, and Tess says, I will hold them off.
Right.
You will have to run. It's not the
Does she
infected.
blow them up? I forget. Or she
She shoots
them.
them.
kills
She shoots
two
them
of
as
them.
and
Yeah.
she didn't really get that far when it's a full army.
Yeah.
I like that switch from the game that it was zombies
Yeah.
more. Then give that reveal a little bit later in the show. Give this moment for Tess.
Yeah.
Make it just a character that we already have seen, the zombies, and Tess.
Well, and we're already scared of Fedra. This heightens our fear of like what the zombies are capable of, and shows that like, oh, because they weren't already there, they got called there. Very, very, very threatening.
One more thing.
They didn't
One more
do any
thing?
music. I just realized that. Keep
They
going.
did what
They
music?
didn't do any music.
It was just
Like no
screaming.
80s music to
Yeah,
listen
yeah.
to. There's no. You didn't know. There's no call. Keep going.
In the museum, when Ellie and Joel are like asking each other questions after Tess goes up, I noticed that on each side of the hallway they're on, Joel's wallpaper is almost completely peeled off of his side, and Ellie's is a little bit peeled, but not completely. I thought that was some symbolism for like how much shit they had each gone through, and how like
okay.
Ellie is still relatively fresh and new, and Joel's
Oh, this
like,
is the moment, the hotel. You said the museum, but I think this is the hotel.
is it hotel?
Yeah.
When
She
right
climbs
after,
up,
yeah,
and they
right
get
after
separated.
Booster.
I loved that sequence. What a great scene for the both of them.
Yeah.
You know, him goading her goading him. Like, oh, I thought you went to
thought you
school.
it was a
like,
bad
it
school.
reminded me.
They're both trying to be
Bad
vulnerable, but
Yeah.
then also
it
like
reminded me
guarding.
of when I talk to my nieces and they say something smart to me and I lose all of my composure as an adult and I'm like, well, you stupid. It's like, it was just great. And it was so believable and just like, he's beginning to open up a little bit for this girl, but he
Not
doesn't
enough.
want to love again because he
Not
already
enough.
lost his daughter.
Every time I watch it, I'm like, this is Joel. No offense to the child actor who's playing Ellie. I'm like, this is Joel. This is the little girl from Game of Thrones. And she is so hardcore
She's
that
hardcore,
she's not
dude.
letting that man in.
She's
and I love
hardcore.
it.
The knife flips, badass.
Where'd you learn that?
When you like to know. Let's talk about kill counts this episode. Joel, he kills 3, both the infected in the museum and the infected at the
I
Capitol.
think they step on a dead body on the stairs. of the
Yeah.
museum. No, I'm
It just
joking.
kind of
I was like,
crunchy.
beauty.
Beauty.
I would love that. It's like stepping on a fall leaf.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The lovely
I
sounds.
would do that. That's the only part that I would enjoy in this show.
The lovely sounds of the human husks in the fall. Tess has a tough kill count to count because so many were piling in from off screen. She blows them up. We could see about 38 before we lost count, but
You
probably
counted.
more. Probably
you said
more.
we could see about 30.
About
There's no
38.
about anything. I could see you going 1, 2. Gary, come on.
Help me.
22.
Slow it down. Boom. Then I really slowed down that kiss. Ellie, 0 kills this episode.
She'll get it.
She'll get it soon enough. And the infected, we'll give them 1. They got Tess. They killed
winning.
Tess.
Tess
I
is
mean,
like
we
20 of
we
us.
also saw that freshly killed dude in the
Yeah,
museum.
they got-
Yeah.
That was interesting.
I love that scene because I was like, oh, there's other people out here.
Yeah,
A,
yeah.
B, this is fresh as hell.
Yeah.
This is fresh as hell.
Yeah.
You saw like 2 skeletons. You saw the husk of a human. This is
Right.
a fresh body.
Well,
Y'all
also
are
those,
in
like-
a fresh area.
When they're at the hotel and overlooking the street, and there's the people just kind of laying there. And
Was
as the
the
sun
sun-
comes by, they're like, ah. They don't like the sun because it dries them out
yeah.
more.
The
They-
big horde where
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
they
at
were like-
Ripple, they did the wave.
yeah.
That
They did
That
the
was
wave.
freaky.
The fungus makes you
That's
crazy.
me being like, I'm going down.
It would be wild if they're walking through the city, they come across the stadium, and the fungus has set up a football game, fungus versus fungus, and the stands are full of people, and there's like the
Little sock
popcorn guy,
puppet.
like, popcorn. He's just got hands, like human hands that people can eat. I want the
The
fungus
mascot
to
is a
put on
human.
it. We have a fungus inside of a human, like, dude, I want to see a fungus football game. Let's go. Let's do it.
They would
That's
be
a free one,
sprinting-
Mason.
They would be sprinting so fast. They would get
it'd be-
so many
Right?
yards.
But they don't have like control of their bodies, which I love. Like in that first episode, they showed that like the cordyceps just activates the instinct. That's why the dude, when he's chasing him through the restaurant,
Yeah, he's just hitting
crashing
things,
into stuff,
crashing,
like doesn't have control of his body. Like I love that idea. Fungus trying to play football, but they're just.
I want a
smashing
big
each
foam
other.
finger with like a bite mark.
Oh, no, that's
We
good.
can make that for
Dude,
you.
we gotta make
We
that.
can make that for the Last of Us.
Hit us up. Hit us up. Okay, let's get into a little more spoiler talk. This will be full official spoiler talk. We
Spoilers.
can talk about anything we want here. So you've been warned so many times at this point. If you're still here, you're here for the
It's your
madness.
fault.
Both the little spoilery things that stood out were kind of like Tess, Ellie, and Joel stepping over the stuffed giraffe on the bridge, which is an obvious connection in the moment in the game. That involves a real giraffe.
Yeah.
But the stuffed animal is also the same design as the ones you can find in the mall during the Left Behind DLC, which we're probably going to see that DLC play out in the season. We already saw a snippet of it in the trailer. Ellie has talked about the mall. We've heard the name Riley mentioned.
I would believe it
Ellie's
might.
lying about being alone in the mall.
I could
Yeah.
see it being episode 3.
You think
that
it's
we
coming
start
next?
Getting, I
Okay.
think so.
That Ellie lying about to
Yeah.
Tess about Riley being in the mall with her.
Yeah.
Are you about to get into it?
Well, yeah, because like
You get into it and then I'll come
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
with it.
So
I'll come
in that
back.
same sequence where she's talking about the mall, Tess asks Ellie if she has a boyfriend, obviously unaware of Ellie's previous relationship with Riley and her future relationship with Dina, if we're going to get there eventually, which it sounds like we are in season 2. Ellie also asks if clickers are real, and Joel and Tess avoid the question, but they clearly know it is. But Ellie also alludes to bloaters throwing spores, and Tess and Joel laugh it off.
There's a lot of things that I'm like, okay, what are they going to touch on in the second season? I know the second season will probably look more like the second game,
That's
but
what
I'm
they've
like,
said.
are they extending how long it's going to take to actually see some of these infected?
I don't know. I mean, the trailer has shown a bloater. We saw it kind of like in the trailer crawling, and it's a
Yeah,
big boy. He's big.
Gross.
He's a big chunky boy.
Maybe they'll use the same trailer or the.
And they seem to have indicated that season 1 will be the first game, season 2 is going to be the second
Yeah.
game, which I was kind of disappointed in because I wanted to see more in between the two games.
because there's so much. So that's like 2 episodes in itself of her getting kidnapped and then Joel being sick.
Well, when they were
this
doing
is spoiler talk.
If you watch, I love HBO does so much great behind the scenes stuff. The after the show interviews they do. They have the podcast, but after the show, they do the trailer for the next episode, and then they show like interviews with cast members. They're interviewing someone, I believe it was Marlene. They're talking to Marlene, and she's on the set of the restaurant
Is
in the
she?
woods. And I was like, oh, I cannot wait for that scene. So good. So good.
Quickly,
So good.
going back to the Riley situation, I was gonna mention. It was interesting that she didn't tell Tess. I understand they were not that close, and maybe she would have
Yeah.
brought it up eventually. But
Well, I think she feels bad about it. And
clearly,
it's her fault that
'cause
Riley
what
died.
was it like in the game? They were like, or no, I think they. No, did they mention in the game or did they already mention in the show where she's genuinely like, well, we're just gonna sit it out here and just wait until we turn. Riley was like, let's just stay here and wait.
Yeah, that's
And
in the
so
game.
oh,
Because we
okay.
haven't seen
Oh, I
Riley at
guess
all
I
on the
was
show.
Yeah.
They mentioned her name in the first one, like Marlene kind of brings it
Yeah,
up. What about
Denmon.
Riley? And she's like,
They
Oh, okay,
also,
so-
it was the same in the game where Tess asks how she got bit, and she says, I was in the mall by myself. In the show, they make it a little bit more obvious that well, I don't know. Maybe if you've played, it's obvious,
looks
but
like she's
yeah,
holding
I don't
back.
know. It looks like she's
Yeah.
lying.
That's good
to me.
acting.
They're saving it for the writing-wise, great for storytelling purposes.
Right,
They're
right,
waiting
right.
for the situation where it's like, what happened to your daughter? What happened to your best
yeah,
friend?
because they'll both
They're
have
gonna have
this.
something that they lost.
They'll both have this
Do you
thing
know what I'm saying?
to share with each other.
The thing
right?
is, it's like something to share that everyone probably has in common because it's an outbreak. Everyone has been affected by it, but it's a situation of like I think they both feel very guilty for the situation, and it was out of their own hands. It was out of their own control.
When Joel finally gives Ellie a hug, I will cry so hard.
When he lies to her is
That's
what
gonna
I'm
be tough.
gonna be
That's gonna
like.
be tough. So the mall sequence, right? We know we're gonna get it. We've seen the trailer for it in the show. In the game, the way it works, it's like DLC, it's extra content, and it's kind of told as a narrative flashback where in present time, Joel and Ellie are going through a different mall. Joel gets hurt, he gets stabbed with some rebar, Ellie's trying to get supplies, and we kind of cut back and forth to this story. Do you think that's how they're going to approach that in the show, where they're in a similar situation and Ellie's having flashbacks, or will Ellie just kind of share this story
I hope.
to Joel? You want to see it play out the same way?
It's so hard because he was getting chased by a bunch of people, right? And he was fighting off one big guy, falls off, lands in it, and Ellie has to literally lift him up. And I feel like that would trigger the same moment of you trying to get your friend out.
Right.
So I want
at that point in the game,
that to be the recognition.
Right. At that point in the game, she's starting to befriend Joel more. I mean, I always felt like in the game she wants to be friends with Joel so bad.
No, it feels different. No, this one's a much strained.
She's being standoffish too. Well, this guy wants to kill her. It's like,
I don't know. I'm torn because, like I said before, I think that we're gonna get those Riley flashbacks earlier rather than later. But in the DLC, it doesn't come. That plot point doesn't come until a lot later. So, and I also kind of think they're gonna save that huge need of hers to save Joel in a certain moment. I think they're gonna save it. They might not. Actually, if season 2 has one big moment, then season 1 also might have one big moment of Ellie being like, I need to save Joel.
That part of the DLC is so big that I want that to be the justification for anything massive. It's so easy to use it as because it's right after they leave Tommy's place, and it's just like, we're gonna do this fine.
Yeah,
he gets
very
killed.
hurt.
So it's
Almost
like,
killed,
I don't know. It doesn't have to happen. None of this, even justification wise, because I'm a justification girl. Writing wise, doesn't need to happen. But it's just like that setup. You guys can play anything off of.
Yeah, they can do it any way they want. I feel like they do it in the game because it is DLC. They kind of have to bring a player back into it. Maybe they haven't played the game in a while. And it's also the player's I want more Joel action, So it's I feel like they do that in the DLC just to make the DLC standalone make sense. But I think they could weave it into the show.
I want them to. It's such a good scene. I just want to see him get, unless he gets I don't know. I hope they don't. They would never make him get bit. But if he got shot by someone, that's an easy getaway.
But I mean, the injuries thing. Craig Mason's already said injuries are going to be way more important in this show because they're not going to heal as fast like you do in the game. And they've already had with his hands. Him beating the Fedra agent to death. At the beginning of this episode, Tess is is it broken?
Yeah.
Because that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I think it's just a hairline fracture. It'll heal fine. I think that's gonna come back to haunt him. I'm tracking injuries in this show.
Let me look at those things.
Well, in the very first episode, when his daughter dies, he gets winged on the side. I would love to see that scar at some point. You know what I mean? When he's talking about his daughter or something. These injuries are gonna pile up, and it's gonna slow him down even more. Unless he can get some of that sweet hydro.
Put the bag down.
He's gonna be like, let's go to Atlanta. I hear there's a lot of good.
Brandon, you would become the
Stuff
drug
in Atlanta.
addict during a zombie apocalypse.
Girl, if I have to live during this bullshit, I'm gonna be high as
I'm gonna
hell,
be like, don't bring him to the pharmacy. Someone else go to the pharmacy.
I'm gonna be like, we got chickens, we got weed, baby. Let's go. I'm on the farm.
I'm on the farm. I look like I'm dressed for the farm today. I am on the farm.
You're Green
today.
Acres over there. Let's go.
Listen, you'll see this outfit again later. Don't worry about it. Let's not talk about it. I will say, so obviously in episode 1 they used the flashback to show Joel's trauma.
Right.
I wonder if they're going to do the same
have
device
to.
to show Ellie's trauma.
Yeah.
They have to, which is interesting. It's kind of too late for that. Not too late. When I say too late, I mean I would have expected it in the second episode. So I'm like, third episode, you got to show Ellie's.
Well,
flashback.
I think it's going to be soon. I really
Yeah.
do. I think it's going to be.
They're
in a
really
couple
feigning
episodes.
towards it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want to go every episode with one little hint
Yeah.
of it. It's tell us the story.
just
tell us
tell
the story.
us.
There's enough drama already.
And for this story, that's it for the break room. You
Dramatic.
guys, traumatic
and
Dramatic
dramatic.
Traumatic and dramatic.
Me.
We'll be back next week to discuss episode 3. But we also do this show every day live at 3 p.m. talking about all the nerdy news you need to know and all the nerdy news you love. Follow me at Lulu Clemens. Follow Brandon at Grin and Barrick. Grin and Barrick, and follow Anna at It's Anna Vanston. Subscribe to the Break Room wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Well, bye.
I'm out of ration cards.
Give me bread.
I'm sorry.
Give me
I don't
bread
have
and
my
drugs.
ration cards.
What am I
Give
doing
me that
this for?
hydro.
Where are my drugs?